My name is Madison Peterson. I am 33 years old. And on the day my husband, Thomas Peterson, said he wanted a divorce, my mother-in-law, Emma Gray, smiled for the first time in a very long while. It happened in the kitchen. An ordinary evening. I was standing by the stove, stirring sauce in a pan. Thomas was sitting at the table, slightly hunched over, slowly scrolling through something on his phone. The room smelled like dinner. The range hood hummed quietly. And everything looked like it was just a normal day. But I could already feel that something was wrong. He had barely spoken to me in recent days. His answers were short. He looked past me, as if I had suddenly become a stranger to him. I turned off the stove, set the pan down on a trivet, and turned to face him. "Thomas," I said quietly. "What is happening between us? Why have you changed?" He did not answer right away. He ran a hand across his forehead, as if he were gathering his thoughts. Then he put his phone down on the table, and finally looked at me. His gaze was cold, unfamiliar. "I want you to take better care of me," he said. I froze. For a second, I even thought I had heard him wrong. "What?" He let out a slightly irritated breath, pushed his chair back and sat up straighter. "You don't understand me," he said. "You don't do what I want." I looked at him and could not understand when everything had become like this. Just a few months earlier, he had said completely different things. He laughed. He held me. Now the man sitting in front of me was someone I did not recognize. I slowly walked to the table, sat down across from him. "I have always tried for us," I said quietly. He looked away. And at that moment, footsteps sounded in the hallway. Light. Confident. I did not even turn around. I already knew who it was. Emma Gray. My mother-in-law. She walked into the kitchen calmly, as if it were her house. As if she had always been there. She stopped by the table, folded her hands in front of her, and looked at us. First at Thomas. I looked at Thomas Peterson, and tried to remember exactly when his words had started sounding so. "You've become cold," he repeated, without looking at me. He picked up his phone from the table, turned it face down, as if the conversation annoyed him, as if he wanted to end it as quickly as possible. "I'm not cold," I said quietly. "I just don't understand what's happening." He gave a short laugh. "Without joy." "Exactly." He looked at me. "You don't understand." I felt that familiar tension begin to rise inside me. The same one that had appeared more and more often in recent months. Arguments. Misunderstanding. The feeling that I was not talking to him, but to someone else. I took a slow breath. "Then explain it," I said. "What exactly am I doing wrong?" He fell silent for a second, then ran a hand over his neck, as if he were searching for the right words. But he did not have time to say anything, because Emma Gray began speaking softly beside him. "Madison." She said my name gently. Too gently. "You just don't feel him." I turned sharply toward her. "This is between me and my husband." She lifted her eyebrows slightly, and smiled. "Of course." She leaned back in her chair. "I'm just observing." But I saw the way she looked at Thomas. Briefly. Long enough for him to understand. He began speaking at once. "You don't support me," he said. "You're not interested in what matters to me." I looked at him, and suddenly something clicked inside me. Because I had already heard that phrase. Not from him. From her. A few days earlier, when we had been sitting in this same kitchen, and she had said, "You don't give him what he needs." At the time, I had not paid much attention. I blamed it on her personality. But now, it sounded almost identical. Word for word. I slowly shifted my gaze from him to her. And for the first time, I felt something new. Not hurt. Not anger. But doubt. Deep. Uneasy. as if pieces of something had begun to form a picture. I looked at Emma Gray. She sat there calmly and looked back at me. And there was something strange in her gaze, as if she were not simply participating in this conversation, but directing it. And in that moment, a thought appeared in my head for the first time, one that made me go cold. What if this conversation had not started with us? We were sitting in the same kitchen, the same walls, the same table. But it felt as if I had found myself in some unfamiliar place. I looked at Emma Gray and tried to remember the last few months. Little things, words, conversations, everything that had once seemed insignificant. And suddenly, one by one, scenes began rising to the surface, as if someone were rewinding a film. I remembered the evening Thomas came home later than usual. He had been irritated. He took off his jacket, threw it onto a chair, and immediately said, "Why did you tell my mother I'm not coping?" I had been confused. "I never said that." He looked at me coldly. "She said you were worried that I'm not handling work." I shook my head. "That's not true." He had shrugged then. Then maybe she misunderstood. And I believed him, because I had seen no reason to doubt it. She was his mother. I did not think she could twist words. Then there was another moment. I sent Thomas a message. Simple. Ordinary. That I missed him and was waiting for him at home. He replied several hours later. Dryly. "I'm busy right now." And later that evening, he said, "You don't need to write things like that when I'm at work." I had been surprised. "Like what?" He looked at me. "The ones where you say you're not getting enough attention." I froze. "I never wrote that." He shrugged again. "Madison, I saw the message. At the time, I decided he was just tired. That we had misunderstood each other. That it was simply tension. But now, sitting in the kitchen and looking at Emma Gray, I suddenly felt something slowly coming together inside me. I turned my gaze to Thomas. He was sitting beside her, leaning slightly in her direction, as if that was more comfortable for him, as if that were his natural place. I slowly stood up from the table. The chair scraped softly against the floor. They both looked at me. "Thomas," I said calmly, "show me the messages." He frowned. "What?" "The texts." I took a step toward the table. "The ones where I supposedly said you weren't coping. And the ones where I complained that I wasn't getting enough attention." He fell silent for a second, then looked at Emma Gray. Briefly. But I noticed it. And that was enough. I shifted my gaze to her. She sat there calmly, hands folded, looking at me. And in that moment, for the first time, I felt certainty. Quiet. Cold. "It wasn't me who wrote those," I said. Silence. No one answered. I looked at her, straight into her eyes, and added, "It was you." For a few seconds, no one moved. And then a faint smile appeared on Emma Gray's face. The smile on Emma Gray's face lasted only a second. Light. Barely noticeable. But I saw it. And that was enough. The room fell silent. I stood beside the table, looked at her. And for the first time in all this time, I felt no doubt. Only clarity. "It was you," I repeated. Thomas looked sharply at his mother. "Mom?" She did not answer right away. She just slowly straightened up, folded her hands on the table, and looked first at him, then at me, calmly, as if this moment had long been familiar to her. "Madison," she said softly, "you are making serious accusations right now." "I'm just telling the truth," I replied. She sighed lightly. "You were always too emotional." I tilted my head slightly. "Then let's look at the messages." Thomas froze. I turned to him. "Show them." He ran a hand across his forehead. as if trying to collect himself. Then picked up his phone, unlocked it, hesitated for a second, and looked at his mother again. It was a brief glance, but it contained everything: doubt, uncertainty, and habit. I held out my hand. "Give it to me." He slowly handed me the phone. I opened the messages. Our chat. Scrolled upward. And saw them immediately. The phrases I had never written. "I think you're too obsessed with work. I'm not sure I want this kind of life. Sometimes I feel like I don't get enough attention from you." I felt everything inside me turn cold. But not from pain. From understanding. I slowly lifted my eyes. First to Thomas. "You really thought I wrote that?" He was silent. Then quietly said, "It had your name on it." I turned my gaze to Emma Gray. "You answered for him too, didn't you?" She lifted her eyebrows slightly. "Sometimes I took his phone." She said it calmly, as if she were talking about something insignificant. "He often leaves it unattended." I didn't look away. "And you wrote to me pretending to be him." She shrugged. "I was only trying to help." Thomas turned sharply toward her. "What?" She looked at him. And for the first time, there was a slight hardness in her voice. I could see what was happening. She gestured in my direction. "She wasn't giving you what you needed." I felt everything inside me finally fall into place. "So you decided to destroy everything," I said. Emma calmly shook her head. "I didn't destroy anything." She leaned slightly forward. "I simply showed you the truth." And for a second, that same smile appeared on her face again. The one that held not a trace of regret. "The truth?" I repeated quietly. I was still holding Thomas Peterson's phone in my hands. The screen was slowly fading to black. The room felt strangely silent, as if even the air had grown heavier. "That isn't the truth," I said calmly. "It's what you wanted him to believe." Emma Gray tilted her head slightly. "And does that really matter?" she replied. I froze. "What?" She looked at Thomas. "What matters is not who wrote those words." Then she turned to me. "What matters is that he believed them." Thomas lowered his eyes. And I felt something inside me finally let go. Because in that moment I understood. She was right about one thing. He believed her. Not me. Her. "Thomas," I said quietly. He lifted his head. "You never once asked me if any of it was true?" He was silent. Then slowly shook his head. I thought. He stopped. Ran a hand over his face. "I thought you just didn't want to say it directly." I nodded. Slowly. "And it never occurred to you to talk to me?" He did not answer. And that was enough. I placed the phone back on the table. Very carefully. As if placing a final period. "I think it would be better if we got divorced," he said. His voice was quiet. But there was no doubt in it. "You're not the one I need." I looked at him. And for the first time, I felt no pain. Because this man had long ago stopped being the person I married. I turned my gaze to Emma Gray. And in that moment I saw what I had not noticed before. A slight smile. Barely visible. But real. As if everything was unfolding exactly the way she had planned it. And then I understood one simple thing. This was not our crisis. This was a slow destruction. In which I had not even been a participant. I looked at Emma Gray. And the longer I looked, the clearer one thing became. This had not happened in one day. Not after one argument. Not after one conversation. It had happened slowly. Almost invisibly. She never shouted. Never made scenes. She simply stepped between us. First with words. Then with doubts. Then with distrust. I took a slow breath. And looked at Thomas Peterson. He was sitting beside her. Leaning slightly in her direction. As if that were his natural place. as if that was where he had always belonged. And suddenly I understood one simple thing. All this time, I had been trying to save our marriage. And all this time, he had already been choosing. And he had chosen. I looked at her again. At the woman who called it care. "You were not worried about him," I said calmly. Emma lifted her eyebrows slightly. "Of course I was." I shook my head. "No." I took a step closer to the table. "You just could not let him go." She did not answer. But I saw her fingers tighten slightly. "You decided that no one would ever be good enough for him," I continued. "Because then he would start living his own life." Silence. I looked at Thomas. "And it was easier for you to believe her." He lowered his eyes. I nodded. There was no point explaining anything anymore. Because it had all already happened. I took my bag from the chair. The strap slid softly across my hand. "Madison," he said quietly. I stopped. But I did not turn around. "I think this is right," he added. I slowly closed my eyes for a second. And suddenly felt a strange relief. As if something heavy that had been holding me all this time had finally let go. I turned around. Looked first at him. Then at her. And said calmly, "You did not destroy our marriage." A pause. I held Emma Gray's gaze. "You destroyed our life." She said nothing. I tilted my head slightly. And added quietly, "Now he is your son." I looked at Thomas. "So live with him." The room fell completely silent. No one moved. I turned around. Walked to the door. And as I opened it, for the first time in all this time, I felt that inside me everything had become quiet. Not empty. Quiet. As if everything had finally fallen into place.